Welcome to episode number 15, and today's my guest is Роберт Влах, coming straight from the Czech Republic. Robert, welcome.
Hi there.
I would like to thank our friends from Networking Premium Coworking for hosting this interview here in this beautiful location in Sofia. By the way, they have 6 locations in Bulgaria. They work 24/7, and for me, really, it's the best place to get my laptop and work. They have daily passes, weekly passes, and monthly passes. If you're
Absolutely, we had the freelance meetup there 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and it was fantastic. I highly recommend it. If you are looking for a co-working place in Sofia, that's the place to be.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Robert is the founder of one of the biggest European community of freelancers in the Czech Republic, Navolnenoze, and a founder of one of the largest growing communities of freelancers in Europe, Freelancing.eu. He's also the author of the international bestseller book, The Freelance Way, where he will tell us a bit more today. And he visited Sofia in Bulgaria to actually be part of the second, I think, event that you had here in Sofia.
It was the first one.
Yeah, in Sofia, yeah, but part of the freelance.
Yeah. We have freelancers on the road event series, and this was the second one, second pilot.
Wonderful. So we'll speak about this. I'm very excited because it's just starting, and I heard it's going to go over Europe as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Robert, just with a couple of sentences, can you introduce yourself and kind of your expertise, where you're coming from, and then I would love to start with some questions.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. Sofia is fantastic, and so far I had so many incredible encounters here. I love it. Well, people probably know me most these days as the writer and author of The Freelance Way, because the book is available worldwide thanks to HarperCollins and many local editions. That's the book about freelance business, about best business practices, strategies and tools that freelancers may use to improve their work, their entrepreneurial endeavors. And the book is, I would say, evidence-based. So I use as much data and, hard facts, recommendations from the quality literature as well. Hundreds of freelancers I've talked to, their experience. So it's all bundled together in a connected, dense text, I would say. It's not a kind of book which is based on a single idea or a couple of ideas. Is actually pretty dense of various approaches. I also like to put various opinions and ideas against each other, because I see freelancing as not as a single-sided thing. There are many things that actually are a matter of a dispute between various, opinions, and I wanted to present them all. They are relevant so that people can sort of make more intelligent decisions. What may be applied to their own business. So the book is pretty complex. I have a great feedback for that, and I made this visit basically to support my local publishers at Locus. Kremena Metodieva, it's her business. She's also a sort of freelancer, I would say. In part, of course, it's a company. But she's really brilliant, and I love working with smart people like her is. And that's the public side of my work. It is also connected to these freelance communities. So I dedicate a large proportion of my time to support freelancers worldwide. Some is covered by our newsletter, some is covered by our meetups. We also run these two communities, Navolnenoze.cz, which is the older one that I founded in Czech Republic, and Freelancing.eu, which has been started in 2020, and we are now exploring all the possibilities it's given us to support freelancers not only in Europe but also elsewhere, because we sort of find out that freelancers elsewhere are also interested how Europeans do their freelance work. And currently the newest project in this arena is this Freelancers on the Road meetup series, where we realized that actually no one is doing international meetups for freelancers in Europe. There are only conferences, which are usually like one-off events, often, concentrated in a single area of Europe, connecting 2 or 3 countries. But we wanted to do something a bit more ambitious, create a series where you can, travel to various locations, meet freelancers there, build new relationships and learn from their perspective, what works, what doesn't. I think it's interesting because not every country in Europe is on the same level as others in terms of the advancement of freelance economy.
True.
Yeah. And so that's my public work. And then I'm a business consultant. I'm an entrepreneur, so I have also my private clients. I'm an investor, private investor, so I invest my capital into things I find meaningful. Yeah, that would be it.
Wonderful. I love your work with the community and that it's going outside the Czech Republic. It's already everywhere around Europe.
Yeah, it's like I consider myself to be an European and of course, like I'm a Czech citizen, so also a Czech. But since we have 2 locations where we live in Czech Republic and Spain, Canary Islands, Las Palmas de Gran Canaria. We can talk about that if you want. So I have this like long-term perspective of being, a European citizen as well. Like I feel at home being in Sofia, just as I would be in Spain. It's pretty much, I consider this continent, this, union to be my home.
Wonderful. I cannot wait to follow up with the future events of the Freelance on the Way.
Yeah.
And would love to meet somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Like people can just search it like Freelancers on the Road on the freelancing.eu website, and in the most posts about it, like these are just news items, there is also a link to join the Freelancers on the Road core group, where they can sign up to get all the notifications. But even if they just sign up to a newsletter, it means that they will get all the information they need in order to get to these events. All are free. So it's definitely, open to everybody. It's not a commercial endeavor. It's my way to pay back to the community.
Wonderful.
Organizing these things.
Make sure we share the links to our audience and also engage them into that. I want to get you back actually at the start of your career, because you started actually with web development and then you moved to business development side. Do you have some lessons from that period that help you even today?
Of course. I believe that the first year or 2 in freelancing is formative. I would say it's slightly similar to being a little kid, who encounters many things for the first time. So he or she may have really strong impressions and strong memories, that were sort of forming them as a person. I believe that the initiation into doing business, be it as a freelancer, is pretty much similar. These lessons are nothing unique, in a broader sense, but they are unique to you, right?
Yeah.
So they sort of, form your intelligence about how you evaluate situations in business, how you deal with clients. Of course, you may sort of re-evaluate some of these later, but still, I carry these lessons along. I remember the uncertainty, the doubts, learning to deal with my first client in order to get paid, in order to get better paid. All of these things sort of, shaped me, I don't go back to them as a source for any useful know-how these days, but they became part of my identity, And identity is not about know-how, right? Identity is about characteristics.
Yeah.
So you learn a lot about people, about, you know, how they behave or misbehave in business sometimes. And these things sort of imprint on your entrepreneurial soul, you know.
I remember my first kind of attempts to freelancing and a lot of lessons learned, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. So each of us have this imprint, you know, from the beginnings. It's useful. It's useful. But I believe that it's also limiting, you know, like some of these experiences may be so formative that we sort of, you know, stick to them no matter what. And it sort of, you know, blocks other avenues that we may explore.
Okay.
So I'm trying to be learning all the time and open to new approaches to doing business or doing my business, because I know how dangerous it is to stop evolving as a business person, you know. So there is also this downside, you know, of these initial experiences, that you may, for example, reach some conclusion about, you know, what is proper, like in terms of treating a client, and then stick to it for next 20 years. That wouldn't make sense to me, you know. It's useful, but it shouldn't be limiting.
I see. And at what point you understood that, well, it's time to change my perspective from what I initially had, like, you know, approach to clients, or it was like a progression throughout?
Yeah, first of all, I believe that many changes are resisted because they sort of disrupt the status quo, you know. And if we reach as freelancers a certain level of advancement, you know, like we have a steady income, you know, steady relationships with clients, but we still remember how fragile our business was at the beginning, you know, we are sort of, you know, hesitant about anything that may disrupt the status quo as it is, you know. So it's about, you know, challenging yourself to change the status quo in a controlled way, where you know what you're doing, when you know why you're doing, you know, you have a certain you know, recurring feeling of uncertainty, of fear of entering some new arena, but you know that you have managed the downside of the step to the fullest level, and yet still you want to make that step further, even if it means, you know, again, stepping into unknown. So, for example, that might be like, to make it a bit more concrete in a way, that may be related to some pricing increase in pricing, you know, where people are, they tend to plateau on a certain level as freelancers. This is quite common for years. You just alter your price a tiny bit, you know, you don't, you know, do any like major steps there. So one example would be that you would, if you decide to up your game as a freelancer, to, for example, go for a more go for an upper tier in your profession, you know, somehow change your offering, up your price, whatever. This would include like a very careful strategic positioning and preparation. You would probably need to strengthen your financial reserve before making such a step, in case that the demand for your services, or looking for the search for the clients in this new top tier, would somehow, you know, be slower than you expected. So
more or less a calculated risk.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not Elon Musk. Like, this guy's really remarkable in his ability to accept a great number of risks. Freelancers are not as risk taking as he is. Well, it's just an episodical joke, but in general, I definitely try to manage my risk as best as I could. But still, I want to make these steps that may be expensive, but they may also take me to a completely new level in my work, So this is what I meant.
I see.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. And here actually I want to point in another direction, because you are also hiring a lot of freelancers.
Yeah.
You're experiencing, interviewing and picking and choosing the best one. And today starting a freelance career is much more competitive than, let's say, 10, 15 years ago. What do you think are some of the key aspects of a starting freelancers that they need to have or like show to the client that they kind of win their confidence in a project?
Well, I'm not sure about the relative competition.
Okay.
Because while there are probably slightly more freelancers, by the way, if you actually look at the data in countries where they are careful about measuring the freelancing growth, I think a prime example would be UK. The growth in the number of freelancers is not like 100% a year. It's just, couple of percentage points if it's a good year, So I wouldn't be too, daring on that side, saying that, freelancing is like rocket booming. It isn't, it may be growing in certain periods. It also relates to other conditions in the job market, But I would say that if it's a growth in some periods, it's more like a steady growth. It's like it's not a boom of sorts. You may have also these boom periods, which are related to, for example, COVID or, other upheavals on the markets. But in past, these proved to be temporary. So they usually mean that a larger number of people, of employees, of students perhaps, decided to take some extra side income as freelancers. They did it for a couple of months or perhaps even years, but then they sort of changed direction, and there was a sort of regression to mean, in terms of growth, in terms of, the absolute numbers. So first of all, if there is a growing number of freelancers, concluding in a sort of greater competition. It may be. I don't know that much about Bulgaria, but there is also probably a greater market for their services. So actually, in some cases, the competition may be shrinking in a way. This was definitely a case, for example, in my home country of Czechia, where we had a long period of really very low unemployment rates.
Okay.
So during this period, freelancers were sort of like in advantage, because there was such a shortage of qualified personnel, like qualified workers, that the employers were actually willing to make some new steps in order to get the talent they needed.
Okay.
So I would be careful about these general statements in general, because it always carries the risk that you sort of like distort what is really going on in the economy, which is usually way more complex than we sort of expect. There are various dynamics, and they all are combined. So actually, like disentangling this data and these trends may take years to reach at least a certain level of certainty. So that's the first point. The second point is that if a freelancer is starting, you look, usually people are very much concerned whether they will get any clients, you know, whether they will be able to land any deal. To that, I would say 2 points, perhaps. First of all, freelancing is a lot about the expertise. So my first natural question to any person, you know, thinking about entering, you know, freelance economy and going freelance would be, what's your core expertise? And is there a market for it? You know, is this expertise in high demand, you know, or is it declining, whatever, you know, like, so it's, you know, freelancing is not about selling yourself. It's basically selling yourself as an expert. So you are always in the eye of the beholder, in the eye of the client. You are always connected to the expertise. That's what they seek, you know, usually. You know, there are cases of freelancers without expertise. They may be called temps or temporary workers in some countries. But this is not, you know, related to independent professionals as business people, right? When we talk as independent professionals, when we talk of independent professionals, these are people who have certain expertise, a more valuable one or less valuable one, but they declare they have a profession, some trade or expertise. So that would be my first focal point. Like, is your expertise you know, valuable? Like, how is it supported? Like, are you just a student or a beginner or amateur, or are you really serious about what you do? What's your level of the expertise? You know, this would, you know, require a certain level of examination or perhaps consideration if you have more than one, because quite a number of people, they have, you know, a couple of hobbies, you know, they have studied something, so they may be in a sort of flux where they are deciding what would be the offering, you know, for the public market, you know, that they do as a freelancer. So that would be my first thing. And if you find out that your expertise is not really valued, or that there is no high demand for it, you know, just by talking to people, you may talk to freelancers in your field, to a colleague, and they might be very likely to have a coffee or conversation with you, because freelancers are really friendly and welcoming to newbies. I mean, like, if you approach them in a respectful manner, and you are willing to travel or to invite them to dinner, whatever, or pay some, you know, 1 hour consultation, you will get like invaluable information. You will get a real intel. You know, that's very important. You need to get an intel no matter how. So you may do your own market research. You may, you know, hire people to tell you, but you have to have this information somehow. It's usually not that public. You know, you need a certain level of insight, or you may go for it without an intel. But then don't be surprised if it's just, you know, doesn't work out the way you dreamed of, right? So intel is important not only in diplomacy and international politics, but and in war, but also in business. It's like insights and intelligence has a great value. Information has a great value. So that would be the first point. And the second point would be, you know, it would be twofold. First of all, many fears that beginners have are both real in a way, because we feel them, but also irrational to a certain level. You know, most freelancers who go like fully freelance, they are really scared about taking that final step somehow. You know, like there's something uncomfortable about leaving the land of certainties and of, you know, being told what to do by your parents, by your school, or by your employer, and going fully freelance, where you actually take the full responsibility for your own destiny. You know, there is something deep and primordial about us, so that people feel a certain scare, certain fear about it. I had it. most of the freelancers who went fully freelance at one moment I spoke to had it somehow. There are, of course, people who don't have it because they went freelance gradually, you know, by some side gigs, and they sort of like built from zero to a like growing business. But even they, of course, go through periods of uncertainty and certain, you know, doubts whether are going right direction, whatever. So a certain level of resistance is quite natural, but on the other hand, you know, I realize that a large proportion of it is quite irrational because, for example, take my case. You know, when I was going freelance, you know, I'm from really rich and well-established entrepreneurial family. You know, my parents never supported me financially, but hey, I mean, like they wouldn't let me die on the street hungry, right? Like I had some family background. I could have, you know, always asked them for help or support and they would be fine with it, you know. But still, my fear was like really like, I'm taking a huge risk here, you know. If I not succeed as a freelancer, what will I do? Like, I will be a flop, you know. So it was completely irrational. But still you feel it. You have this, you know, you are lying in bed and thinking, well, what am I doing, you know? So I believe that this relates to many people, you know, like we live in advanced world, you know, like fully developed economies, you know, people are not going bankrupt or going hungry by not getting enough clients as freelancers, you know. So it's good to think about that challenging this uncertainty or fear is partially about, you know, fighting your own irrational exuberance in terms of, you know, overestimating risks and so on, you know. Like there is this like our inner self, you know, obsessing about various risks and various things that may happen, you know. Exactly. And this is like a primary function of our brain, you know, like our brain is trying to keep us alive, you know, don't bend too much of that window, you know, don't climb on that tree, you know, like don't run across the street full of cars, whatever, you know, like we have these impulses all the time. So it's good that it works, you know. But in some cases, and freelancing may be one of them, where we are facing like some completely new and unfamiliar situation, it sort of misfires, you know, in a way, with some people more than with others. And there is the second, you know, thing related to this, that freelancers often fear that they won't get clients. And to that I can only say, look, as freelancers, we have a very limited working capacity. And it's very easy to sell all your available time for cheap to someone. You will always find somebody who will buy your time in full for like a couple of peanuts, right? So it's not a question of getting clients. It's a question about, you know, if we start low, you know, like selling our time cheap, which we usually do as freelancers quite naturally, if you are ready to up your game as fast as you learn, as fast as you improve, if you are ready to raise your rate according to the overall occupancy rate or overall demand. If you are ready for this, you know, you are set for a good start as a freelancer. If you are not ready to sort of, you know, renegotiate and then renegotiate again and raise the price for the next client, then you may be up for a disappointment, you know. So it's not about getting the client. I mean, like you may talk to freelance friends, you may talk to these mentors you will trying to approach, you may offer that you will join their team, you know, as a team member for a while. So it's really easy to get, if you are really interested in that, you know, to sort of like sell your time to other people if they reach a conclusion that you have the expertise and that you are reliable and, you know, willing to work. Because we look for hardworking people. We don't look for people who sort of slack their work, living on some dream. I mean, like, as clients, we want serious professionals, right? So if you look like one, I'm going to hire you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I love the viewpoint that it's not so much of getting a client, but rather if you're cheap enough, you can fill up your schedule. And then the harder part is moving from that perspective.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of freelancers struggle with this because they land on let's say a rate, and they're like, okay, this is my rate.
Yeah.
Permanently.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem, especially because the initial rates are really low.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. Like, I'm fine with bottom-up pricing, like that way, that's like how your price relates to demand, how people react to it. If you are flexible with your price, you suddenly see how it influences, like, who is hiring you,
Mm-hmm.
how high quality they expect, whatever. So, like, I'm completely fine with the bottom-up approach. I think it's better than, going like overconfident, charging, like a senior price for a honestly like junior level work, because then people will expect certain quality relative to this pricing level. If they don't get it, it will ruin your reputation, at least with them,
Yeah.
and people will tell, so reputation is really important. So I'm more in favor of bottom up than like starting high and possibly correcting down a little bit when you are forced to do so by facing disappointed clients.
Mm-hmm. At this stage where I would, let's say I'm a good professional, I start freelancing, but I start kind of on the cheaper side so I can get distraction, how we can protect ourselves from this, I would say, clients that might take a full advantage because just we're on this kind of lower end of the pricing. Like,
sorry, I didn't get clients.
Yeah. So as a freelancer at this stage of, let's say I'm starting on the low and I want to fill up my schedule, how I can kind of protect myself from not getting, I don't know, this toxic clients that sometimes exist at this level of price point where they expect the world from you for no price at all, and they don't value so much your kind of time and work.
Yeah, it's fairly easy, I would say. Like, it's another, thing that it looks much harder than it actually is. First of all, we all have certain ability to read other people. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't drop this ability, if I were you as a freelancer. So make sure that you are not overly eager to take on any client that comes away. Just, use your carefully fine-tuned, brain mechanism to sort of, distinguish between serious and, good people, I would say, and those who sort of misuse others. That would be the first thing, just learn to, use this well-developed mechanism in the business environment as fast as you could. Many freelancers, according to surveys as well, prefer to avoid toxic clients by what they called intuition. I would say it's not an intuition, it's sort of, like just not ignoring obvious things, right? But you may call intuition whatever. It's not important, like how is it tagged or called, but it's sort of, like reading signals.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that if you are starting freelancing, that you have at least some kind of financial reserve. Just go on a, I don't know, like sort of like extra work that you can get, not even like a freelancer, perhaps even like an employee before, a student, whatever. Just build your reserve so that when you go freelance, that you are not forced to take anything that comes away, even if you get these, red flag signals, because you have to take that client. That's a problem. I mean, like people who are really low on their reserves, who sort of, are not responsible financially from day one, they are often, forced into toxic client relationships because they need to pay their bills. You know, that's quite common. It's way more common than you would expect, probably. No matter how good your screening process is, you may misread the other person. It's good to enter a new business relationship gradually. So don't get signed on a project for a full year if you don't know the client. I mean, like, it's like, you know, getting married after 2 days of acquaintance, right? Like, so it doesn't make sense. So like, let's start slow. Like agree on the first phase of the project. You know, do something. You know, like I don't know, like study or or certain, you know, paid example of your work, or just, you know, try to sort of, you know, mincemeat, you know, the whole thing into like controllable pieces, you know. That way you will gradually get more intel from the collaboration, and if you find out that this client is sort of like problematic of sorts, you have two options. You may back out of the collaboration because no one can force you as a freelancer to take on a client. Like, it's your free will and it's your choice, right? And second, you may sort of, you know, price in the information you are getting into renegotiating the contract. So I would recommend you then, if you are getting, you know, like not serious red flags, but, you know, like a sort of, you know, disappointing new information, that, for example, the communication would take longer, or that client is a bit like a nitpicking kind of type of perfectionist. Why not? I mean, like, people are, you know, there are various kinds of people, and I like perfectionists. Why not? But then I'm sort of, you know, pricing this information in, and I renegotiate for the next phase. So I sort of, you know, extend my time reserve for the client. You know, depends on the pricing you may be getting, but my general recommendation would be really this. I mean, like, of course you will run into weirdos along the way. It's normal. I mean, like,
I think we get a lot of lessons from them. Like,
yeah, a lot of lessons. I mean, like, but you know, it's a free world. You know, like, they're completely free to try their own strategies, no matter how doubtful they are, on anybody else. I mean, like, I'm not here to judge, you know, what they should do or shouldn't do. You know, like, market is a complex environment, you know, and in this complex environment, things happen that you wouldn't understand, you wouldn't believe. I mean, so that you wouldn't believe, you know. And if there is like a buying and selling side that agreed to do a thing, well, who am I to sort of tell them that it's wrong or whatever?
Yeah,
it isn't. So yeah,
if it's legal, both sides.
Yeah,
free market from both sides.
Yeah, exactly.
True. Well,
so don't look down on these people.
No, that's true, but
let's
I think
not do it.
This intuition builds up with a little bit of time and experience with these clients. Such clients.
I don't mean you. I mean, like, in general. Let's not look down on anybody, you know, who is sort of like trying to make a living.
Yeah, exactly. We're kind of discussing the reliable clients, let's say, like this, but I want to get to a point that we discussed actually in the meeting, in the freelance meeting here, and you said something very nice, that the perspective of clients entering the market is that, the perspective of freelancer entering the market is that all the other freelancers are like these top-notch professionals, completely reliable, answering, you know, in a timely manner.
That's an illusion.
Yeah, can we break this illusion? Because I think it persists in a lot.
Absolutely. Look, this is such a counterintuitive thing that it's probably great that we can address it. You know, I've been on a hiring site for 20 years by now.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I haven't met more than 10 100% reliable professionals in the freelance arena. You know, like, I've been hiring hundreds, and, well, most of them have, you know, certain limitations. It's okay. We are all human. You know, I don't say that I sort of expect anyone to deliver under any conditions. I have a certain understanding for things that you cannot control for or that you didn't control for. But still, I appreciate as a client if I run into someone who delivers under any circumstances with any client, who is sort of, able to tackle any difficult problem that comes their way, even those people have limits, of course, but they are far less likely to impose those limits on your case or your situation. So I didn't run into those limits, although I'm certain they are there, So even with the most, renowned people who have a certain, like a glare of stardom in their profession, we really run sometimes in some really difficult situations where they did not deliver or they sort of like didn't meet the expectations, we were able to manage it, of course. Like I'm always prepared on the client side, if we hire people, to sort of, like go through this problem, like solve it one another. So, but it adds a level of, complexity on the client side in a way. So this is one thing, that it's very hard to reach a level when your service for client like reaches this like very top-notch 100% reliable tire. What I mean reliable, that's important to note, because I don't mean only like the explicit reliability that you stick to your word, that you deliver the quality you have promised, that you keep the price you have promised, that you sort of give a word or sign a contract and you fulfill it. Much harder is the so-called like implicit reliability, where the client sort of expects a certain professional behavior. For example, like due diligence, informing them of important circumstances that may affect the assignments, they may also rely on you not disclosing any details to colleagues or family members, because it's a private information. So all of these things are sort of expected from top-level professional, but they are not written in the contract. They are sort of, expected, given that each of us has a certain understanding how a 100% professional person should behave, and quite a number of freelancers fail on this level, because they sort of, there's so many things that you may think of, and sometimes you are busy doing other things, or you sort of behave in a way that is irritating for the client, and you don't know that, that may be another case. So it's really easy to fail in this regard, and I'm pretty sure that I failed myself in this regard many times as well. It's like, it's human, right? But this is the first problem, that beginners, they go to LinkedIn, they go through these websites of these famous experts, and they thought that, well, these people they are completely flawless. This is illusion, like my experience is like completely otherwise. They are as human as you are as a beginner, and if you are really hardworking, diligent, if you are reliable in all the aspects, you may beat them at their game, like it's possible. It's nothing, out of your reach, And as I said, it's a free market. Like you may be really competitive in a way, not by treating others as your competition, because freelancers don't do that much, but by being ambitious in delivering the best possible outcome for the client. That's what I mean, like by being, competitive and ambitious, not, being opposed to somebody else. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that you have to calculate in the marketing factor, like freelancers are really great at personal marketing. So they are really able, if they are experienced and if they are, educated in a way in this arena, they are really great at presenting themselves in the very best light, you know, like, so take this with a grain of sand. You know, once again, I'm not opposed to that, you know, I take it as a part of the game that you are selling, right? So I wouldn't criticize that. I just would like to take the beginners, like, look, like everybody is selling, you know, and some people are really great at presenting their, you know, personal business in such a way that they look like movie stars, you know. So yeah, but it doesn't mean that the delivery is actually that star level, you know.
Doesn't mean they will get hired again.
I'm sorry?
Doesn't mean they will get hired again if just because of their reputation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like as I said, you know, quite often the client is disappointed and they tell me afterwards, look, I don't want to work with this person anymore. Like they may be, you know, they may have reputation, but I don't want them.
What I like about breaking this illusion is that it's universal to any industry and profession that we're discussing here. Would you kind of summarize that the essence of this is in communication as a skill set?
Can you rephrase this question? Like, I'm not sure. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. So to be this kind of top-level professionals in the area of reliability, does communication land at the foundation of getting us there?
Getting
us there, becoming this person.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's important. Obviously, like communication is all important. But look, what makes you a highly demanded professional is what others tell about you behind your back. So it's your good name, it's your reputation, you know. And so, of course, it involves communication because you communicate with your clients, and if you leave excited clients behind you, you know, these people, thanks to your, you know, overall management of the assignments, they tell great things about you, you know. But let's make no mistakes here, because you can be known in your field, in your expertise, but not you know, renowned. You know, in any profession you have people who are highly visible, but if you ask their clients, like, are these any good, or is this person like any good? I said, well, I worked with him or her on a project or two projects, and it was quite disappointing. So how would you prefer a client to deal with this information? Of course, you would go with this, you know, background check rather than, you know, just looking at the highlights that are presented out there. So no, it's way more important that you have a true expertise that you deliver to clients. It's way more important what you do than what you say that you do, you know, well. So, you know, I'm strong believer in high expertise delivered to a maximum comfort of a client. You know, things that are not spoken but done.
Yeah, I like this, how you frame that.
Thank you.
So, in the name of failing at this stage of progressing with clients, would you point out some very common mistakes that freelancers, maybe in the beginning, even in their middle kind of progression in the career, they make these mistakes and they're like easily fixable, let's say, or maybe not easy actually. Let's not make it
absolutely. Well, they probably relate pretty much to what my book is about, because my book covers, well, it is both from beginners and very veteran freelancers in certain aspects, because even vets have a few issues here and there, you know. some blind spots, I would say. The middle ground, where people are sort of, still in their development phase, when they sort of, create and recreate and reevaluate their strategy, their identity as freelancers. That's where I believe the book is most valuable. And my main point here would be that there are two levels to freelancers, to freelancing. Perhaps a third one being, some administrative obligations to a state, taxes and, other, regulation requirements. But, the two main would be the expertise, that you have a certain expertise. Somebody is graphic designer, somebody is, business consultant, somebody is illustrator, a translator, interpreter, like a trainer, whatever. So we have our expertise and we work on that, and professionals, we usually love that, so we are naturally drawn to this kind of work. But then there is the other part, which is very important, and this is the business side of things. That includes time management, pricing, business negotiations, personal marketing, financial self-management, using online tools, having a website, whatever, career strategy, and so on. And this side tends to be more or less neglected. So my important observation about this middle ground of freelancing would be that people often settle for little. They sort of, start a freelance business, they sort of have their clients, but they neglect large areas of this entrepreneurial part of their freelancing, leading to lowered reliability, leading to bad pricing, possibly underpricing their services, leading to less competent or even incompetent business negotiations, leading to very poor financial self-management, leading to inappropriate marketing behavior, and all these sorts of things, So I think that the common ground, the common theme there is that these people sort of, neglect the entrepreneurial side, the business side of things, thinking that they are fine enough the way they are, which again is their right, and I don't oppose that. I mean, I only explain what I think is the most common, missed important point in the middle of the career of freelancers. They sort of get busy, and when you get busy, that's a situation where you are very likely to get into a sort of tunnel vision, and that tunnel vision basically prevents you to deal with important things that you probably at the back of your mind sometimes know that you should work on this, or you should work on that, or you should, sort of remake that price list, or that you should, have this new website, whatever. But you don't do that because you are being dragged into, this transactional level of your work, which is client delivery, assignment delivery, gig delivery, whatever. It's a busy life, So I don't think that this is, freelancers' fault or anything. I see this as a externality of a busy freelance life, that we sort of get dragged into the daily grind and somehow miss important points that we sometimes know they are, and sometimes we are completely oblivious to them. That's why I wrote a book for, It's I strongly believe that making this, shift in focus is crucial for freelancers.
I like that pinpoint, and it's true, when you you're, let's say, full with projects, you say, okay, I have work now, I'll deal with my website, with my processes, with kind of my first impression, or like, as you mentioned, portfolio or other things later, but in fact, they will kind of come back and bite us in a not appropriate moment. Because
Exactly.
the cycle of freelancing is like, okay, I have projects now, I'm busy, but then I don't have projects, and I had to, actions.
It's sometimes called feast and famine cycle in a way, but there are also other reasons in financial self-management that actually cause these. But they are also related to this like marketing and busy periods where when people are busy, they don't market themselves as much.
Yeah.
And then when they are less busy, they go on a marketing freak show,
Right.
So no, it's a joke, but they sort of like go full marketing mode, and that's okay, because it sort of fixes the problem for a short term. The problem with this is that it supports this feast and famine mentality, where you have like huge mood swings, within your business, and it sort of draws on your energy, and the overall energy we have as freelancers is quite important. I mean, like, we need to be healthy as much as possible. And I don't know how for you, but for me to have my daily high level of enthusiasm for what my work is very important. It's like I want to wake up every day, seeing my family, having a breakfast, whatever, then go outside and being excited about what I'm about to go through this moment. That's why I'm not such a big fan of this concept of, I don't know, like that you have like couple of thousand weeks in your lifetime, and you have to make sure that you sort of strategically fill them, whatever. Like, for me, it's always about the current day. If I feel that I live to the fullest on the day, I don't care about things that will happen in 20 years, but making sure that I control my health. That's important, because that's I believe one of the crucial things for us freelancers, to be really mindful of things, as you say, can bite us in the future, because we sort of may neglect some things that
Absolutely. Nobody benefits if you're outside, like exhausted, you're not in a mood, and you're packed with project, and your clients are like, they have a call with you and are like, what happened with Stan? Like, why he was like this today? Like, nobody wins at this point.
Exactly. Like, clients are not stupid. They do read many things that we sort of may be trying to, hide, whatever, or if it's a small thing, like, nobody cares. But if it's like a persistent issue, these things radiate, and it's true. And it's a harsh truth, I believe, that clients sort of like prefer to work with people who are excited about their work. Absolutely. And who are engaged.
Absolutely.
They don't want to work with people who obviously have issues and problems, and sort of like, not only, some freelancers, they share these problems with clients. I don't think this is wise in general, to a certain level, why not, but once again, speaking from the side from who hires people, I'm fine with listening to problems to a certain small talk level, but I don't want to have too much of it all the time. I'm not interested in that. I'm hiring you because you are supposed to work. I'm not hiring you to listen to like ongoing banter about your wife or whatever. It's like, it doesn't, no, it's not good.
And on the other side, not only that it's not good, but it's so much uplifting when you have energized call, when both sides are present, they're like into it, they're exchanging ideas, conversation is fruitful, and yeah, it's just no way.
Yeah, if it is supported by a great level of expertise, that's the best combination. Otherwise, without expertise, it's also useless. I mean, like, you may have an excited repairman, going to your house, but if he doesn't know his stuff, I mean, come on, like, this is a walking disaster. So yeah, I agree. Like, it's important, but it has to be like always, connected to a really professional, high level of expertise. Like, you hire these people because you know that they have expertise that you don't, or they have the time and the expertise that you don't. So yeah, that's crucial.
That's primary.
Yeah,
I want to get into kind of your community building side. So your platform offers like newsletter, podcast, a blog, and a directory of freelancers, and you do meetups. So which one of those do you think is maybe like most beneficial to freelancers, and why?
Yeah, well, with Navolnenoze, the Czech community, this is a really complex project already.
Okay.
And we sort of, shift our attention to things that are most engaging for the team I work with. Because, I've been working on this project for 18 or almost 19 years by now. And one of the most curious things about it is that not a single member left our team, during that time, Everybody who joined sort of stayed around, not necessarily on the same level of engagement, but, I sort of prefer to have very stable team of people I trust and I like. And so when we are deciding like what to do next, what would be our next project, whatever, I always consider what these people like me to do with the thing, like what they would prefer out of the many options we have.
Okay.
And because I would like us together to have fun, when we have fun, when we are engaged, it shows, and people are naturally drawn to what we do. If they would see that we are bored or burned out, like it wouldn't work, I believe. So they're probably the most impactful things that we do is this directory. It's a go-to directory for looking for Czech freelancers. It's really like highly used. It's a top source. Our newsletter is like coming out every month, and it's like packed with inside news. There is also usually some essay I wrote or something, or my colleague wrote. We have a new podcast, or sort of restarted podcast, like since this year on. Most episodes are like 4 to 5 hours long, so it's like a deep conversation. We really like this new format a lot, and it has a great, reception, I would say. Then with the Freelancing.eu project, we always experiment there as well. I believe that the newsletter is probably quite impactful. We have a great number of subscribers from all around the world these days. And the subscriptions rates were also quite high this year. I don't care about the absolute number. I just want to see that we provide the service, the public service that we are trying to. It's a tough job, I would say, because we are trying to research or go through like hundreds of sources for freelancers, like every month, and only pick a couple of articles that we find highly useful, relevant. I would say that most of the content is really of little value, of fluff. Some of it is probably AI generated these days, so I'm very careful about this, and I'm also concerned a little bit because it just makes the job of looking for great content a little bit harder. But I think our way for the future would be to concentrate on individuals, on like outstanding writers, and they have their own reputation. They probably wouldn't publish any, like low-level content or low-quality content, because it would ruin their position. So we are more oriented these days on individuals and the content they produce rather than, the sources. We were more source-oriented in the past, but it has changed recently in the last year or two, or shifted. And these meetups, these are, it's just a dream that we are starting. I believe it may lead to some interesting ends. It may connect people across countries in Europe. I believe we will incentivize people to get more US-like in their freelancing, because in the US it's quite common that freelancers are active like on an interstate level. In Europe this is quite uncommon. Like in most countries and most professions, for example, IT and remote work, there would be an obvious exception, but in most professions, freelancers tend to cater to their national market. So they would, if you are, for example, a German business consultant, you're very likely to work primarily for German clients. That's how it is. We would like to, shift this balance a little bit for freelancers to have like a broader possibilities for the future, to have some international clients, international collaborations. And I'm a strong believer in in-person meetups. I believe they bring something incredibly valuable to the interchange of contacts and ideas. I sometimes participate or give talks at online events. They are good. It's like it's better than not having anything. But I believe the technology there is still limiting. For example, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine who gave a lecture to a large student audience, and he said he's a very experienced professional and presenter, and he said, look, I don't know what to think about it. I mean, 3 of these people had the camera turned on, and otherwise I had a feeling I'm speaking to a wall of in my room, So I believe the technology there is really disappointingly basic, It's like, and anyway, if you talk to 200 people, and 10 of them have a camera turned on, and out of these 10, 5 are sort of,
doing something else.
Obviously doing something else. This is a disappointing, speaker's experience, And I believe that this side of the experience is not really addressed by these tools well, The reality is, far from perfect. So I believe you may have these tools in a couple of years, that you may have some immersive experience in your living room or in your study, where you would actually interact with people in some sort of virtual environment. That would be interesting. I would be the first to try it. But the general Zoom call and Zoom presentations these days, it's not even close to that experience of meeting real people. Yeah, that's my opinion on that. So I believe strongly that traveling across the Europe and meeting 10 engaged people, in a deep conversation, has all the meaning in the world to me, because some of these people like you may sort of, be inspired by the meeting, start a local freelance community, whatever, have some real moving, takeaway out of that, and with online events, it also happens. So it's not uncommon. Only that from the speaker's perspective, it's sort of hard to read sometimes. So I prefer in-person things.
Sure.
I'm extroverted, so I like to be around people. During this trip to Sofia, I done like 10 interviews, including this one, and I've met perhaps hundreds, people. So that's amazing. That's something that couldn't be possible with online tools only.
No, for sure. So how was your overall experience from visiting Bulgaria, meeting so much people here?
Awesome. Like I like Bulgaria. I like Sofia. Of course, I haven't been to the rest of the country yet, but the overall vibe reminds me of Spain, which I love. So it's like sort of laid back attitude. Lots of people in the streets, in cafes in December, outside sitting, smoking and so on. This is what I like as a social person. So far so good. I mean, it has been quite a experience.
You mentioned you have a place in Gran Canaria, Canary Islands. Is it freelance friendly? It's a destination actually I would really love to visit and spend some
absolutely time. Freelance friendly. I mean, it's one of the hotspots of remote work in Europe these days, and it's getting popular by the year. It has it's a city of 500,000 inhabitants plus, I don't know, perhaps 100,000 tourists in some cases, because there is this annual festival that many people visit, so it may have some peak in February. It has 3 kilometers long, fantastic beach strip, along a promenade.
Okay.
There are countless restaurants, shops, places to, dine out, whatever. It's a part of the EU, so you pay with euro. You have European level of overall quality of life, healthcare, security, whatever. The beach strip itself, is divided in 2 parts roughly. One is open ocean, so you can surf there, and the other is protected by a reef barrier or a rock barrier, so that the waves mostly don't reach the shore on their full height. And this part is great for children and elderly people, so that they may swim whatever without, being dragged by the waves. The only drawback I would say is that it's completely Western in pricing level, in price levels. So renting an apartment along the beach strip can be costly. There are definitely budget options. There are even hostels and stuff. So it's pretty easy to visit on a shoestring, I believe. But in general, if you are renting an apartment for a family, that may come up to 3,000 euros a month.
Okay.
If it's a waterfront, waterfront, if it's a second or third street from it goes way down.
Yeah.
Shopping is basically great. The prices are basically similar to Bulgaria or Central Europe, whatever.
You'd refer for groceries?
Yeah, groceries, but also branded goods.
Yeah, okay.
Because they are like island. They have probably some arrangement that allows for really great prices of branded goods. So basically, I buy most of my fashion items, whatever, clothes there, because it's basically half of the price I would pay in Prague.
Okay.
So for shopping, be careful about it. It's really My mom is a really excited shopper, and she spends a lot there. And as for restaurants, it's definitely, well, on a par with, I don't know, Germany, Prague, whatever, like these countries. It's more expensive than Bulgaria, but well, you don't have to dine out every day, right? So it's not an issue at all. Like the main issue would be probably the apartment costs, because it's like there's so many people going, and well, the city has like incredible vibe. There are so many co-working places. The weather is fantastic all year long, so it's like basically the same temperature, or you may go to a same temperature in January or February as, say, in September, October, or June.
Amazing.
So the weather is crazy. Like it varies between usually between 20 and 30. Wow. And so it's not too hot, not too cold, and the extremes would be like, the minimum would be like 15. I think I saw the lowest I've seen in 10 years that we spent there was like 13 degrees perhaps. And that was really cold. Like local people were like all dressed up, like in the winter jackets, and they were like really like complaining like, this is crazy winter. And like the top temperatures would be like 35, something like that, perhaps. So it's like manageable. Yeah. That would be in summer or some hot periods of the winter. It may happen in winter. It depends on the flow of the currents, air currents. So if there is like this hot air from Sahara Desert, because it's on the level of Sahara, basically Western Sahara, southern Western Sahara, that's the level of Canary Islands, you may get like this like yellow cloud of sand in the air, sand dust basically. So it gets yellowish a little bit, and the hot air would bring like much higher temperatures. So yeah.
But those problems are good problems to have for freelancers.
I would recommend people to travel for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because the weather there changes as the weather fronts come and go. It's like an open ocean, right? So if you catch a cold front, it usually means like 17 degrees and rain for a couple of days. It's not really uncomfortable, because if you live there, we spend there like each year like a couple of months, each winter. You know that it will just pass away in a couple of days, but some fronts are long, so they may take a week or 10 days to change, and then you wouldn't have any sunny days. It would be disappointing. You would be complaining to me, why would you recommend this place? It's raining all the time, and it's cold. So yeah, 2 weeks go for at least 2 weeks. Don't go for a weekend. It's you are running into a high risk of having disappointing weather.
I see. That's a good advice.
Yeah.
In kind of overall conclusion for our call here, actually, I would like to point our direction in something so buzzwordy now, if I can say this, and it's related with AI. And why I say this and why I open this topic is I get a lot of comments and like questions like, Stan, I'm very worried. Is this going to take my job and work? Me personally, I do not believe so. I'm very curious about it. I love playing with the tools. I see where it's going. I think the minimum level and threshold is going to rise up with what AI can do. But what's kind of your overall opinion, like where this stands in let's say in the next couple of years on the market, like how we can align with AI so that it's like our ally and not
it's nice that you use the word align. Well, first of all, I believe that it's way more important that we align with AI on the level of global security.
True.
I think it's like we should be concerned about the onset of human level or superhuman level AI without actually building some safeguards first. So I did a couple of interviews with people who are involved in the AI, movement, I would say. And I read a couple of books by people who are more on the alarmist side or like the cautious side. That would include Nick Bostrom's Superintelligence, Toby Ort's The Precipice, then Stuart Russell's Human Compatible, which is all about, these books are basically about alignment problem. And although I am myself more on the optimistic side of the whole opinion spectrum, I wouldn't definitely disregard opinion and the concerns of these people as irrational or nonsensical, I think if there is a risk involved with AI, almost all of it lies with the risk of the superhuman or autonomous artificial intelligence rather than with the job market. That I think should be said, because I quite often see that we are sort of steering the public debate to job market that I believe eventually will get adapted, somehow, because people will just move to some other meaningful work, and the precedents of all the past technological revolutions sort of, support this notion that we will be able to adapt no matter how dramatic, it may look at first. So my concern is less with this risk, especially since I believe that freelancers are highly flexible in their ability to adapt to ever-changing market conditions. I would be more concerned about employees, somewhere who are sort of shielded from this, and then they may suddenly realize that their company just was not able to cope up with ongoing change, right? So I'm less concerned about freelancers than about employees in certain areas, but my main concern would be whether as society we will be able to enforce AI alignment and to enforce that we do the necessary work in order to make these tools safer. It would probably never be completely safe. I mean, look, we are entering, something that is totally unprecedented. There has never been an entity on this planet smarter than human, and who knows what may happen, so we should be concerned about it. As for freelancers, I believe the best advice would be to make first of all, to use these tools, to have actually the hands-on experience of what they can do and what they can't do.
Absolutely.
Because there's so many things as well that you can't do. Don't idolize what they can do. I mean, there's so many things that are sort of not included in the models so far. So using them is very important, having this, personal experience, sort of, thinking in advance, where these tools can be already employed in your workflow. That's a great approach, I believe. Why not use something that sort of, takes off the grind, part of the routine, and focus on the more, intelligent or, creative part of what you do. Then if you are in a profession or a trade that is especially exposed to AI disruption, I would definitely recommend having regular, assessments or checkups, how your market and how your profession is changing, so that you can adapt. So don't go the tunnel vision way, the usual way as we spoke about it. If there are conditions outside of this tunnel that may totally, change the direction when the market is heading, while your tunnel leads only one way, right? So make sure to look out of the tunnel and realize like what are the changes, like what are the trends, and readjust. That would be definitely applicable to, for example, developers or copywriters. These two professions, they are definitely affected somehow, by the onset of these tools. So just make sure that you reorient yourself as you go through the most lucrative part of your possible scope. So that would be my stance on it.
I share your viewpoints, and I find it as a rather very interesting tool that I can play with it and get extra value for the client, make me a better professional, save me some time, or even open new possibilities for me to do my work itself. But on the other points, I didn't expect that you mention it, but actually I believe also it's the more important part. Like let's see like where this can lead us. But unfortunately, I'm a bit realistic, and I think even though we do some safe measurements, I think some things needs to happen so that we can learn from them, so that in a way we can patch it. In that sense.
I would agree. But taking the optimistic hat, I like the points that Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz made in his article, Why AI Will Save the World. Look, and actually many of my friends who are involved in the movement are also voicing these points. Look, we're on a planet that is, warming up. We have so many issues, about, pollution, energy transition, and so on. And we probably need AI to help us make the transition. Otherwise, we may be heading to a much darker future than that. Than having some issues with this or that system going rogue. So I'm carefully optimistic. That would be my stance. I think that it's a groundbreaking technology, that we may benefit greatly from it. And I think that is still the likeliest outcome. I'm not overly pessimistic about the AI future, but I'm definitely aware that the risk of a complete meltdown due to irresponsible use of the AI, of a human level AI, may happen. So we are entering a very fragile phase of our future, where our future will shape in perhaps some quite unexpected way. We are entering something that has never been here before.
It's going to be exciting times.
I hope so.
Robert, I want to thank you so much for the time today. I had a wonderful experience talking here with you, and even at our meetup. I would like you to use the chance to point our audience to any resource or way where you would like for them to follow up, and we'll make sure we add all of this. Clickable.
Well, first of all, my book is in Bulgarian. So like this book from Locus Publishing, Kremena and Locus Publishing, they did outstanding job with the book. I'm excited. I have great feedback on that here in Bulgaria. And well, the second would be perhaps our Freelancing.eu newsletter. So they can just go to a homepage, sign up, and well, you will trust me, you will get our best selection of the freelance news, articles, insights. It's like every month festival for us. You know, sending out this newsletter. I know it's an important connection link to our community out there.
I see. I love that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stan. Thank you for having me.